the Know Your Gear podcast.
Jeremy says, hey, a topic for discussion. I really like the Spark and other modeling amplifiers for practice and for trying different tones and effects. But I find they make all my guitars sound essentially the same regardless of the pickups. That is exactly what a lot of modeling does. And the reason why I was told by some of the modeling experts that build these things or help design them is that a lot of it is because it's in the program of the effects. In other words, let's talk about this. I have tube amplifiers behind me for today. A tube amplifier would work is, you put a hot pickup in front of it. It's going to push the input stage of the amp, and the amp starts to distort a little bit and break up a little bit. And, you roll the volume back off and it cleans up a little bit. And that's just how it's reacting. Where if you put a hot pickup in a modeling amp, the modeling amp may dampen that down a little bit. But if you put a weak pickup in a modeling amp, it might push it up a little bit. So in other words, like exactly what you're saying, it's kind of the whole point of a modeler is to give you a quote unquote perfect sound, right? I would say one of the things that people hate about modeling technology is the same thing that people hate about compressors, is that they make everything sound, perfect, which is sometimes not a great sound. The idea that, you want some of the inconsistencies of highs and lows and sharps and I don't know why I say I'm sharps, but you get the idea. Highs and lows and loud, let the amp distort a little bit, break up a little bit, hit a little harder, breaks up. But I do believe that even though you're saying that, and I agree with you, the amp still does do a good facsimile of what it's supposed to be doing. The one thing I will tell you is that you can roll back your volume knob, and that will really tell you if, the amp is really reacting to you. Because if you roll the volume back halfway, the amp should really clean up a lot. So it's just one of the things that's a drawback of that technology. It's not necessarily, I will tell you one thing that I've learned to cure that for me when I'm using, whether it's a solid state amp that also has that kind of problem, or a digital amp or digital product. Like I use a Kemper most of the time. Anytime I'm playing personally, I'm playing through a Kemper. But I use a boost pedal and compression type pedals like the Servo by Taurus or the Enhancifier by, I don't know who's by, it's an Enhancifier. It's an Enhancifier. And there's tons of versions of those pedals. These kind of boost compression type pedals, I like them in front of digital and solid state amps because of the fact that they kind of give me that same, they put back some of the experience that I told you that I like, which is the reactive part, the fact that it feels like, that there's something, coming back and forth between you and the amplifier. But, yeah, so Michael says, hey, my Fractal doesn't do that. All my guitars sound different. I don't use a lot of effects, just an amp, cab, and reverb. Yeah, I mean, I would say my Kemper doesn't do as well. That would be obviously the reason why they're so much more expensive, because of the fact that essentially when you buy a modeling technology, you're buying a computer. It's why, if you really, you're really into that stuff and then you know that that's why some of them will use multiple effects processors. That's why they'll offload. So for instance, like somebody like Larry Mitchell will use his Fractal, but he'll use another unit for some additional effects because he doesn't want to overload the processor. That's really dumbing it down, but at least that's a concept I get from him, is that he wants, he doesn't want to stifle the unit because, again, it's like a computer. So you're playing through a computer. So Dexter says Phil still uses a Kemper and shit talks modeling. My age is showing. Dexter, it's not. Well, my age is showing because what it is showing is that I am very open to all the ideas, which is a very, very hard, almost impossible thing to do on the internet, because everyone thinks that the world can be fixed with a hammer. This idea that there's one way to do something, you either use an expensive amp or you use a cheap guitar, or you use an expensive guitar. This idea that there's one thing for everything. The reality is that modeling is very good, which is why I say it's very good. and tube amps are very good, but they don't all have the same needs. I would say, without a doubt, in my personal needs is this: I wouldn't own a single modeling unit or plugin or profiling unit ever in my entire life if it wasn't for the fact that I record so much. And when I record, everything goes into the computer and into my monitors. So I'm already there listening to the monitors, and I'm listening to a drum track or a bass line or whatever I'm mixing with it, right? So to me, it's an easy process. It's like, and it almost feels silly sometimes to take the time to take a nice tube amp, mic it all up, put it in a different room, and then listen to it through monitors. I'm like, when I can really, at that point, I can't really tell what the tube is doing anymore from the modeler. So that's what it is. It's a usage thing, and that's what it is. Everybody should just find, if that's how you want to, when I say that, how I mean the internet, whoever is out there that has these harsh opinions are like, hey, I like this and everything else is a bad idea. If that's how you want to roll, go. But I have two sides of my life. One is I make a living in music, whether people think so or not. It's music. I spend more time. In fact, a friend of mine and I had dinner a couple weeks ago, and he said, "Do you still like playing guitar? And do you get sick of playing the guitar, or do you get sick of doing repairs, for videos and stuff?" And I said, "That's not my job." I said, "My job is 90% of the time editing." Recording and editing. That's like 90% of what I do, record and edit. So that's my job. Do I like it? I like it fine. Did I ever see myself as a recording editing person? Hell no. People will always see me as a repair person in a video because that's what I'm doing in the video. But if you take, obviously, let's do some math. And I think it's because maybe this is insightful. If you watch a video that I put out that's 20 minutes long, let's say a deep dive, and I tell you guys honestly and truthfully that it takes me 2 days to do that video, and 2 days to me is a 6-hour plus day, okay? So I'm saying one day could be a 6-hour day, and one day could be a 10-hour day. It doesn't matter. I just look at the day as like I start the day and I end the day, and that's just what it took. So 6 to 10 hours, that's how my schedule could work. Let's just call it 8 hours a day to keep it easy. So 12 hours. I spent 12 hours making that 20-minute video for you. No one really believes that I filmed 10 hours of footage. That's insane, right? Like, how would I edit down? That'd be like editing down. 10 hours to 2 hours would be a lot. 10 hours to 20 minutes is silly. So filming wise, a 20-minute video, the max I could have in footage, the max is 2 40-minute files, maybe playing for 40 minutes, doing stuff for 40 minutes. So when I tell you guys that it took me, 12 hours to make a 20-minute video, you can do the math now in your head going, well, let's see, we'll give them, for argument's sake, we'll give them 2 hours for filming it. So what was he doing the rest of the time? It's research, it's editing, right? It's a lot of editing, and that's where you spend your time. So same thing with recording. When I record now, it's why all these musicians are doing what they're doing. It's like, do I want to spend my entire day trying to get this amp to sound as good on the computer as it does in this room? Or do I want to push a button on my profiler and I know it's going to sound like that does? And it's just the decisions everybody has to make. And when somebody says, oh, I have to have the real deal and I have to play the real thing, I totally understand. But I will tell you this, and I've said this as clear as I can say for almost 5 years now out of the many years of doing this, I would use a Kemper for 100% of everything I do, including YouTube. And I'm sure a lot of you, because you always do, you say nice things like, I wouldn't care if you did that. I'm fine with that. But the majority of people who respond to the videos that you put say, oh no, I wish you would have used a real amp so I have a real perspective. I don't have that device, or I don't know that device. So that's why I do it. That's why, like this week, if you notice, I did 2 deep dives this week. I did the, what did I do? I did the $1,000 basic EBC Rich. I played that through a $1,500 Synergy amp. And then I did a $200 Firefly, and I played that through let's say a $200 PV amp. Just for, not so much for comparison, but so that when you're watching it, you don't feel like, oh, he's stacking the deck, right? So that's my 2 cents on that. But like I said, use the tools that work for you, and don't screw yourself over ego. That's the only good advice I could ever give, and it'll never get better than that on this channel. Literally make a workflow that works for you and then do it, because while you're doing it, people who are not doing it are going to sit there and critique you, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're the one getting it done. So do that. So if you like this clip and you'd like to watch another one, you can click right here. And if you want to see the entire episode of the podcast, you can click right there. As always, thank you for your time and know your gear.